welcome to my studio. My name is Jane Lindsay and I'm the founder of Snapdragon Life and the Studio Club. And today I'm going to be making a very twiggy, natural kind of wreath for my own front door. Now I have here on my table a selection of things that I picked yesterday. I live in the middle of Scotland and last night was very cold. I knew it was coming. So yesterday I went and I picked some silver birch twigs, some ivy, some dogwood, beautiful red colour, some kind of crispy dead bracken, and then seed heads. This is columbine, aquilegia. This really nice seed head. I've also got some poppies and lichen and things that I keep from year to year. So let's get started. I made yesterday this wreath and I will show how to do it maybe in a short. It is just willow stems. There are 6 willow stems, each of them about 1.5 yards, about 1 metre, wrapped around and twisted. Very, very simple to do once you've got the first loop. Nice and strong, you can keep them year to year. I like twiggy wreaths. I like it to look as though it's a nest. So not having lots and lots of foliage in it, not lots of dried, kind of fancy dried flowers, but just something that looks as though a bird could take up residence. So first of all, I'm going to cut up this silver birch. And you can see this is kind of, it's nice and textural. I want to give it a really short stem, like that, but cut at an angle so it's actually a point. And then I'm going to jam it into my wreath brace. All the way round. It should kind of look as though it's got antlers. Jam it in. Now I maybe need another couple. So you cut it, if you cut it at an angle, it's much easier to jam into your wreath because you've got kind of a point. So here we have the very twigs jammed in. And you need to get some thin twine and just begin to kind of wrap around them. You want them still to be very, very twiggy. But to have the twine around. Now you're not going to see the string really once we've finished. But it just holds it all together. And it also is compostable if you're going to want to put the base onto your compost heap or whatever. Though what I would say is that once you've done this base, you'll be able to take anything fresh off it and keep the base from year to year, because the silver birch and the willow are both long lasting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap around this and then I'll show you it once it's done. And at the end, just knot it. So there we have it, and it's looking much more twiggy. And what I'm going to do is go around it and pull out all of the little small twiggy bits, just to give it kind of a more rusticy, nesty kind of look. So there we have the beginnings of our nest. Next I'm going to take some ivy. These are beautiful kind of long trails of ivy, but you can see there are big gaps where they are. So I chop them back there, again chopping with a nice angle. Like that. There is a direction to this wreath, so everything is going around this way, and I'm going to just keep that with the ivy. So jam it in. I mean, not everything has to be kind of like completely solid, because it does hold itself together, but the early things that you put in, it's kind of best to have them. You can find a gap now, like that. And then I'm just going to wrap it around. Now I'm going to secure that with small bits of string, but just maybe about 3 of them. Try and keep the ivy on the top of the wreath. And then just a loop of fine string around it. Whoa. I don't normally have this up, showing it to a camera, of course. So very self-conscious fingers here. That, then wrap around. You can also use wire if you have wire to do that. It means that the wreath isn't completely compostable, but equally you can take it out and use it year to year, so it's not exactly the worst thing. And get another bit of ivy. It's amazing how quickly things tangle up on your desk. And I will, got a nice prongy bit there, cut it at an angle, start it off just about there, loop it round, and tie it in 3 or 4 places. Now do remember when you're making your wreath to think about the size of your door, width-wise, but also how deep you want the wreath to be. And sometimes it's very easy to get carried away and end up with a great thick chunky wreath that makes it difficult to get in your door. That's not really the way to welcome people to your home this Christmas. Just stopping them from getting in. Maybe good for the introverts. Right, so you can probably see how this is all building up really nicely. You can see it's really quite solid. Bits will float off like that. And you can just, the ends, you can just tuck them in. Here I have a really nice fine ivy bit. I'm going to chop it into 3. Again, angle cut at the base, and think about, I'm now thinking about where there are gaps. So I can weave that bit in there, and then loop this round, and to just pop it underneath one of the bits of birch. And then again I can thread it through, and that just means that I need less string. It all looks just what I want is for it to look as though I've just picked it out of the hedgerow. I think this will be the final bit of the ivy. And here, see, just prong that in, loop it round and stick that end up here. Very beautiful. What I'm going to do with the bracken is cut it up into bits about that size to give it a kind of a textured look. And I'm doing it on the inside and then some bits, small bits I think, on the outside too. So here's a one, and I'm just cutting it at a kind of angle, jamming it in. You can see that just gives it a nice textural kind of look. I picked some bits of red stemmed dogwood that I'm going to add in just to give it a little bit of colour in the base here. Again, cut them at an angle and then jam them in. With these, be very, very careful that you're not going to have them at eye level when they're on your door. You don't want to be welcoming your guests by pronging them in the eye with your wreath. So try and keep it quite flat. Okay, add in seed heads. Now, these are beautiful. These are from a flower that I cannot remember, and I'm going to have to put it in the notes. Has big orange flowers, and then it gets these magnificent seed pods. So you put them in 4 or 5 at a time. Birds don't eat these, they mustn't be very tasty. So they stand all winter in the garden. And what's quite nice, I don't know whether you can see it, but they catch the sunlight, so they're kind of a goldeny beige colour anyway, but the sunshine catches them, so they don't look too dead and deserted. Put them in there. So now that I've got the base, I do want to introduce some more colour into it. And these are some birch leaves that I picked earlier in the year. If you pick them at the right time, the leaves don't fall off the twigs. So I am going to put these in on the top. Now I'm actually going to cut them into quite short lengths. So that they are right in the centre. I do love the colour of birch leaves. So it's really just a case of going round and round, adding in interest, adding in texture. I like directional wreaths, so I like everything kind of facing in the same direction. Sometimes you need to spend a little bit of time just banging them in. And then the one thing that I do wire in is lichen. So I have a collection of bits of lichen that I have collected that have fallen into the forest. Don't pick it off trees. There's always plenty around after storms. And I wire these and then I take them off if I'm going to be getting rid of my wreath. So I use very, very fine rose wire because that's what I happen to have. You can use any kind of florist wire, even garden wire, and I just kind of prong it into the middle of the lichen and then loop it around and then twist the end, so I end up with my lichen attached to a bit of wire. And then what I'm going to do is just very, very carefully, hope you can see this, thread that through the front, and then it comes out the back like this, and I just twist it around. So there it is at the front, and it is attached at the back, but it's not, there's not great bits of wire. And as I say, you can just remove those and keep them year to year. You can see mine are kind of several years older. So here we are. This is the almost finished wreath. And the last thing that I want to put in is these little bits of pine. Oh, smell gorgeous. So again, I'm just cutting them into small pieces at an angle, and then carefully pushing them in like this. And again, I'm just wanting to keep it all going in the same direction, so that it's like kind of like a lovely circly nest. The reason that I like adding in the evergreens right at the end is I think it gives it a much lighter kind of collected together effect. And it means that you can see all of the different bits. You've got your seed head, you've got the Scots pine, bits of bracken, dogwood, birch leaves, all together kind of making a really nice nesty kind of thing. So I'm just going to add in the last few bits like this, and then I'm going to go and hang it up on. And then here we have the kind of finished wreath. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it up on the studio wall, and I'll have a whole load of little bits that I might add in at the end, because it's much easier to see it when it's actually vertical. But that is it, leaving my table now, and I will show you it on the wall. But in the meantime, thank you very much for being here while I made this wreath.